It's hard to take apart a Donald Trump speech because, I mean, it is just like the first 44 days of his time in the White House, an overwhelming avalanche of things to process. He said it himself in the speech again and again. We have been the most productive, in the history of blah, 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 blah. And while, many, many, many things in his speech were untrue, that one is true. He really has broken the record when it comes to just how much he has done in the first 44 days when it comes to executive orders. And that has had the effect of overwhelming people in conventional media, which is, why it has been so hard to process this stuff. So in this case, the litany of things that came at us in this speech can make it feel overwhelming. So what I choose to do is step back from it a little bit and think about a couple of bigger dynamics. So here's one of them. I don't think Donald Trump has a huge amount of experience, at least not recently, in speaking to a room in which half of the people, I guess it's slightly less than half mathematically, are openly hostile to what he's doing. Having a group of people not cheering him on one side of the room clearly disturbed him. And it speaks to the kind of bubble he's been in the most, in the recent part of his life. He's been surrounded by people who continually tell him what a great job he is doing and how he should keep going. And being face to face with such an enormous group of people who really don't approve of what he's doing and are, in the same halls of power he is, I think he didn't find it exactly unnerving, because I don't think he processes things that way. But I think it was unfamiliar for him, and it drew him into little strange moments. One thing that happened right away that I thought really was going to maybe, be the beginning of something much more sort of theatrical was the ejection of Representative Al Green of Texas as he stood up to say, you have no mandate to do away with Medicaid and Medicare. That's what he told reporters in the hallway afterwards, is that he was trying to raise his concern that doing away with Medicaid and Medicare, as Republicans are planning to in their budget, will harm his constituents endlessly. And he was saying, you don't have that mandate. And I thought to myself, wow, is this going to be the beginning of, is each Democratic lawmaker going to stand up and get ejected each time he says something untrue? Well, that was not in the end the case. But I thought, wow, maybe we're going to sort of be in this, we're going to have this incredible theatricality that night. Instead, what we had was this avalanche of stuff. And what was interesting to me was there were the gimme lines, the lines in which you knew that he was playing to his base and you knew exactly what his base was going to say and think about those things, right? So going on and on about trans athletes, right? Or over and over again, trotting out the widow or the grieving mother of somebody killed. I've never seen so many grieving families at a State of the Union or really almost any speech like this. I thought that was, it's just a gallery of death in a way that I just thought was quite awful. But, that kind of stuff plays with the base. And so you can understand why he would go for that stuff. But in my thinking, he also bumped up against a handful of issues that he seemed, I don't know if he was road testing them or what he was exactly doing, but it felt to me like he was sort of pushing a few of them out into the public sphere. And we got the chance to see the degree to which even his most fervent supporters were willing to stand up and wildly applaud the same way they are for his horrible stuff about trans athletes or calling an African nation, Lesotho, a country that no one has ever heard of, the laughter and applause that comes from that, right? All of that is the predictable stuff. But here's one that he threw out that I thought was very, very different. I want to show you a little bit of it. Here it is, and you can hear a little bit of the silence that this one is greeted by in the first seconds in which he mentions it.
We have developed in great detail what we are calling the gold card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship.
So that gold card idea, I think, is tremendously unpopular with almost everybody. I don't think there's almost anyone that actually believes that paying $5 million to have citizenship here is a good idea in his base. I don't think those are the people that believe you should be able to buy your way into being an American. I think, if anything, the people who are probably most fervent about that stuff believe that you have to have been born here in order to live here, that, that immigration needs to end sort of overall, much less that people who are rich from other countries should be able to buy their way in. That doesn't feel quite right to me. And I think you could sense that in the silence there. I think you could also sense sort of the limit of his, what he was sort of willing to speak about publicly, in the fact that he never mentioned Medicaid or Medicare, right? And instead talked about a balanced budget, which puts the Republican lawmakers in the impossible position of feeling, kind of backs them into a corner such that they are going to feel like they have to go ahead and swallow this tax bill, even though it's going to force them to go home to their constituents and explain to them why, grandma is not going to be able to get medical care of any kind, right? But another one that was not mentioned, that I was sort of half expecting tonight, that didn't get mentioned at all, and I think it's also another one that's just very, very unpopular, is crypto. He's been talking about creating a strategic reserve of crypto. Essentially, what that would mean is taking taxpayer dollars, a billion taxpayer dollars, and putting them into a mercurial asset, an asset that fluctuates wildly according to the market, not a controlled asset, but something that's really just subject to the whims of Wall Street. That kind of, that is such an unpopular idea, even in some cases with some of the crypto people, that one also was not mentioned. Another one that he never mentioned, Gaza. He certainly never said that word. He talked about the Middle East being a rough neighborhood and so forth, but he mentioned the Abraham Accords, but he did not mention what was going on in the Palestinian territories because, he just is not, I think even he recognizes how poorly that one is going, and that he doesn't want to be talking openly about it. He mentioned farmers, and I sort of felt like I could sense a little chill because there's so much horror going on in farming right now, as not only the Doge cuts to specific contracts to farmers, but ones that are connected to USAID and the rest of them. All of that is causing huge, huge trouble in farming in the United States. So the mention of farmers, he vaguely said something about how on April 2nd, this thing is going to happen. He never really made clear what that was. But, and there's going to be a little bit of adjustment, little time to adjust. And you could hear the silence in the crowd. All of that feels like it's this test of it, this sort of test of that stuff. And it didn't quite, it didn't land in the way that I think he would have hoped or expected. Although, of course, he got endless praise, the rest of it. He got all the applause anybody could really hope for, at least from his side. But I think, one of the big themes for me is there's all this sort of questioning about like, what is he about? What does he think about when he, is he on Putin's payroll? You hear all of these conspiracy theories about sort of the way in which he's sort of, supplicating himself to Putin and talking about Ukraine, or, supplicating himself to Elon Musk and the rest. But I don't think that's what we saw here tonight. I think what we saw is the most clear distillation that this president feels that this sort of, that being in the company of the richest, most powerful people is the best possible place to be. That in his case, being with the sort of the toughest gangsters around is the thing to aspire to. And you could hear it in how he offhandedly talked about Putin. He described Afghanistan under President Biden as being such a mess that, Putin said, maybe I'll take a shot, as if they're somehow buddies, as if there's a connection between them, as if he can empathize with Putin's perspective and respect Putin's view on what's going on in the United States. There's an equivalence there that was it's jarring to me. It's very casual, but it's quite jarring. And then, of course, Elon Musk, right? He salutes Elon Musk, makes him stand up in the gallery. Elon Musk is hugely unpopular in the United States. The poll numbers on him are horrific. He also, by the way, mentioned that Elon Musk is leading Doge, which Doge has been very careful over and over again to say that officially that is not true. So that's sort of problematic. But he mentions Elon Musk and says he's doing great work for us. And then he says at one point, well, he doesn't need this trouble, in this kind of winky way of saying, this guy is one of us. He's one of these very, very wealthy, powerful people. And as a result, he doesn't need this, that kind of thing. So he has this deep affection for people at the very top, the sort of, the scariest, richest people is kind of his milieu that he wants to be in. So between that and then the populist message he has run on all this time, this draining the swamp stuff and, chiding unelected bureaucrats, the irony of that is sort of amazing. But, this broad thing of sort of, we're going to make America great. We're going to make America affordable, he said, on the day, that tariffs came into place and, the stock market crashed and the Wall Street Journal is predicting, a 1930s kind of global depression if tariffs continue, it's the bumping up against the bumping together of that populist message down here and his clear love for only the richest people that, to me, laid bare the kind of transactional nature of this president. I think that's what we really saw. And in all of these oddball ideas that he put forth to sort of test out in front of people, and I'm sure just kind of hear the applause on a little bit to feel it out. I think we see him road testing what is going to be an even more and more and more transactional presidency as he goes forward.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.